Lauren Wright, Associate Research Scholar and Lecturer in Politics and Public Affairs at Princeton University, is back with us. All right, Lauren, any reason to think that the fourth indictment will be the one that drops President Trump's poll numbers?
Well, that's a causal claim, and I know I'm in the weeds here, and I'm the only one that seems to think indictments don't necessarily help Trump. But let's look at what else is going on in the political environment. Could his poll numbers have also gone up because Ron DeSantis is absolutely tanking? Could they have gone up because the closer we get to the election, the more staunch Republicans pay attention anyway? And so I do think there is a danger to just assuming that because we're looking at these super simplistic before and after analyses, and he's the front runner anyway and has been for many, many months, those averages have been sky high, that somehow something's helping him. It's more likely that he's cruising along because he's the former president. There's 8 other candidates people can't seem to distinguish between, and he's been very likely to win for a very long time.
What do we make of the fact that now, 24 hours after the first Republican debate, by tomorrow morning, it will be as if the first Republican debate didn't happen? And by that, I mean, the news cycle will be completely saturated by coverage of President Trump and his experiences today at the Fulton County Jail, and everything that was said on the stage in Milwaukee will become irrelevant.
I mean, you're right. This is quite a spectacle, and it's more recent in the headlines. It's a bigger deal historically than certainly one Republican presidential primary debate. And so naturally, that's the case. And, you know, editorial teams do have to make the decision. Why are there different rules for interviews live or taped, or his live remarks or his speeches? He is the leading contender, and what he says is important to cover. And so it is appropriate in that sense to cover Trump in some way, shape, or form.
Forgive me for interrupting you guys. Is this live pictures of the president's plane, or are these the tape pictures? These are the live pictures. Is he coming back to the ramp? Okay, it looks like he might be coming back to the ramp where he was, which would be curious because the plane is now gone in a circle, it would appear. But we'll work on that. Lauren, we're going to work on figuring out why the president's plane is coming back to what's called the FBO, the ramp, and now is stopping once again. So what we've just seen here is pretty interesting, which is the president's plane was ready to take off. He got on it. You heard him talk about the election interference that he claims is being perpetrated against him. Got on his 757. It taxied out. And now we're looking at the live pictures, actually, of his plane taxiing out. So it may be that was taped, which, there we go. So now he is indeed heading out to the runway. Lauren, I want to play a soundbite for you from last night's debate. And this is Chris Christie going after Vivek Ramaswamy about Donald Trump. Take a listen.
I've had enough already tonight of a guy who sounds like ChatGPT standing up here. And the last person in one of these debates, Brett, who stood in the middle of the stage and said, "What's a skinny guy with an odd last name doing up here?" was Barack Obama, and I'm afraid we're dealing with the same type of amateur standing on stage tonight.
Okay, so that was him talking about Vivek Ramaswamy in a different case. Chris Christie went on. President Trump, I believe, all right, now we have it. Chris Christie, take a listen.
President Trump, I believe, was the best president of the 21st century. It's a fact. And Chris Christie, honest to God, your claim that Donald Trump is motivated by vengeance and grievance would be a lot more credible if your entire campaign were not based on vengeance and grievance against one man.
All right. So, Lauren, you talk a lot about Donald Trump's control, as we're watching him take off, of the Republican Party, of the media landscape in general. He made the point earlier on the tarmac that this is election interference by Democrats, which even people who don't like Donald Trump, there's a lot of people who like the idea of a weaponization by either political party of our justice system, a lot less. And is there any research to show how motivating that is, the anti-Trump vote, if you will?
Well, there's a difference between motivation and excitement and growing your block of voters and attracting new people. And so what's so ironic about these primary debates and these singular campaign events that we have is the people that are most likely to win a general election are sometimes the least likely to come out of a primary debate where there's extremist voting for them. And for Ramaswamy, there is a huge difference between him and Obama. Obama won, and Ramaswamy might be Trump's VP or something like that. He's great at attracting attention to himself. But as it happens with many new candidates on the rise, once people start digging into him and the searing spotlight of every business transaction he's ever done that comes with the presidential stage, he might not be at the center of the stage for very long.
The prediction has been made. We'll see how it turns out. Lauren, thank you as always. We appreciate you being with us. Thanks for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to subscribe. Click the red button to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.